All right, so for this week, the topic is War, Pol Pot, and the Khmer Rouge. And you have several readings for this week. The first one is Jeremy Hines' uh, chapter on bombings in Cambodia, and this provides the background for how the United States pulled Cambodia into the Vietnam War. Um, and uh, and instituted a bombing campaign along the Cambodian genocide. I mean the Cambodian countryside. Um, and secondly, another article by David Chandler on who is Pol Pot, and this is an interesting article about Pol Pot and how he came into power and rise to become the leader of the Khmer Rouge and his own personal background. And it's ironic that he would be that he would institute a genocide of non-ethnic Khmer, meaning Chinese Cambodian, and other foreign elements in Cambodia when he himself most likely was not 100% ethnic Khmer. And as you recall from the reading last week on the outline history of Cambodia, Cambodia's history reveals that the people of Cambodia are inherently mixed with Vietnamese and Chinese and Indian and other neighboring Southeast Asian countries. And so that is something to consider and think about. And then in the nature of the Khmer Rouge Revolution by Sushin Chen, she discusses the philosophy behind the Khmer Rouge and how it was inspired by China's civil war and revolution in 1949 and Mao Zedong and how that country had an agrarian revolution and how he wanted it in Cambodia and he wanted to transform their society and for them to start afresh, anew, with the idea of year zero. Um, and and unlike other communist revolutions around the world, the Cambodian one took extreme ethnic turn that developed into an ethnic genocide that killed nearly 1.8 to 2 million. Some sources say up to even 3 million Cambodians were killed during this period. On a personal note, my family, most of my family, the majority of my family, like 99.99% of my extended family died during that period. So I have no relatives in Cambodia. Um, and because of that, and we'll study this later on during the semester, one of the ways that my parents dealt with it was to never speak Khmer. And so even though they're fluent in Khmer, uh, we never spoke it at home. And so to this day, I don't know any of it. Um, but it was a traumatic and total the Khmer Rouge genocide was a traumatic and it had traumatic and total kind of impact on many millions of Cambodians, even until today. For more about my background and my family's connection to this, you can read Ethics of Identity in our textbook. I don't assign it, but you can read it if you like. And the last reading by David Chandler, premier historian of Cambodian history, is Discovering S-21. S-21 was this prison. It was a school that was converted into a prison where they tortured people and forced them to confess to crimes that they did not commit. You know, and you would have to commit to the crime to end your torture, but once you commit your crime to end your torture, you were then sentenced to death. And one of the things that they did was they took photos of everyone before they killed them. And so what we have today is a an archive of photos of just faces, people's faces, um, right before they would be executed. And so Chandler does a great comparison of S-21 prisons with concentration camps for Jews in Nazi Germany. So this week's reading are not fun, um, but they provide a lot of context and provide the information, the push factor of Cambodian refugee migration out of Cambodia and into the United States, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, France, and other Western countries. Um, but one thing to highlight is America's responsibility and America's role uh, in that creation of the refugee and in Pol Pot's rise to power. And those are questions that Jeremy Hein, in his article, uh, invokes us to think about.